All right, hello, my name is Greg, and this is my father's 1971 CL350 Honda. It's a K3, and he acquired it in 1973, and that's where the story begins for this Honda. My mother was dead set against motorcycles. I sat there and made a decision as soon as I graduated from college. The first thing I was going to do was buy a motorcycle. So I bought a Yamaha CT175. And my mother threatened to set it on fire in the field. And as soon as I took all of the heat, then my father and my brother, within a few months, bought their motorcycles. So 1973, 1974 was the height of the fuel crisis, and my dad, my brother and I slowly converted to motorcycles. And this is up in New Jersey, so you had maybe 6-7 months of good riding weather. We pushed that as far as we possibly could, stay on the bikes as long as possible because literally gas was not available. Dad at the time was riding an SL125 Honda, and then all of a sudden he showed up with this thing. It had about maybe 4,000 miles on it or so when he got it. This bike was that very interesting color called candy topaz orange with the black decals on the tank and whatnot. So it was a 70s bike. One of the things he added to this bike, you'll note, is that it's probably the only Honda CL that has a set of crash bars on it. He grew up in Mississippi during the Depression, so my dad's idea of improvements always involved spending as little money as possible. If he could make something, he would make something. So he welded those up in his garage, helped get it off the ground if it fell over, certainly protected the engine, but you know, he made the crash bars. I have kept it on out of deference to his memory because it helps me lift it up if I ever drop it over. He worked at a old naval air station in Atlantic City. So he rode this bike in the snow all winter long into 2 or 3 miles it took to get to that facility. So he rode this bike quite a bit. He put about 17,000 miles on this bike in the duration of period that he owned it. So Dad rode this bike probably very actively until maybe 1980 or so, and then my brother took it over and used it on his commute from Atlantic County up to Camden and back. And then it went into storage. My dad was retiring and going to Florida, and he put it in a small garage on one of his properties outside of Atlantic City. The bike was in storage probably for about 8 years, and because I wasn't allowed to have a motorcycle in college, but yet I loved motorcycles, I really wanted my son to have a motorcycle during his last half of his senior year in high school. That magical time where SATs are over with, nobody is really studying because no test means anything. And we started looking at bikes in that area, and I sat there and said, why don't we go up and get Pop-Pop's old bike and we can restore it. So that's what we did. We took the seats out of the van, family van. We left Richmond, we drove up to Jersey, and we loaded it into the van. We tied it off and we brought it back to Richmond, Virginia. And then the candy topaz Honda converted into what we have here. All right, so we brought the bike back. We put it in the garage. This is in Richmond, Virginia, and we took the tank off. We took that. We knew we were going to repaint the tank and the side covers. Took the fork covers off. We took the engine out of the frame, which anybody who's ever taken a 350 engine out of the frame, it's quite a chore. You almost have to half tilt the bike, turn the engine, drop it on your hand 5 times, and then just get aggravated and kick it free. We took the heads off, cracked the cases. Pistons were okay, replaced the rings, scrubbed everything up, reground the valves, put in new cams. Still had at the time the constant velocity carburetors, changed the shifter dogs because the shifting was a little bit tough. Didn't see any wear at all on the bottom end. So we really went through this engine. Of course, it had the original pipes at the time. There were some rust holes because of the drainage holes in the old Honda exhaust system, but it was still doable. We replaced the shock absorbers. We put progressives on the back, which were just a tad taller. Sent the seat out to a company in Florida and had them redo the seat. So it's the same foam, different material, but I think they did a pretty good job. And so everything else was original. My son wanted to have a fly screen. So we located a fly screen, and so that's his vintage. When it came to change the color of the tank, because you know the candy topaz was just not a good color, my son we went to a local Honda car shop, and he picked out a Honda car color. So this is probably a 1970s Honda Accord car color. So we had it mixed up and whatnot, and of course we sprayed it ourselves. So this is a tribute to my son. This is a tribute to my dad. We then put everything back together. Started right away. It ran like a dream. We then decided to drive this bike, and you'll see two bikes in the picture. One is me and my Harley, and then the other was my son with this bike. We took it up to Jersey to show my brother and my dad what it looked like after our restoration. That's an 8-hour trip on the back roads. So a 16-hour run up and back right after the first overhaul on this bike, and it performed flawlessly. I then took it over, and of course we're now going into the late 90s and whatnot, and I would ride it periodically, but I would start noticing a problem with the carbs. So I slowly started doing what became then the second restoration, which probably went over a 10, 12, 15-year period. I could not locate anywhere any type of constant velocity carburetor. So I just decided that I was going to see if I could put direct control carburetors on it. So there's a company in Florida, because this is a very durable bike on the vintage race circuit, the 350s. So I put their race carburetors on this bike, ripped out the air boxes, used some aviation hardware to attach the covers so it looks like there's air boxes on there, but really I just have air filters. I have new technology air filters under the air boxes here. It's a race carburetor, so at low RPMs it burns a little bit rich, but boy, you sit there and hit this thing and it will rock it, okay? When you clean the plugs, they're black, so you get the message it's burning rich, but who cares? That was, I think, the largest upgrade I did until common motor came along. I did the yellow wire conversion. That allows the alternator to put 100% out even at idle. But you have to redo the rectifier into a new technology rectifier at the same time. So I put the rectifier package in, I did the yellow wire conversion, and then I put this amazing electronic ignition in. The thing idles rock solid, doesn't skip, doesn't hop. It's just a very decent upgrade. That's pretty much the short strokes on the two rebuilds. This is Gary, he's my twin brother, and it was up to his house that we went in 1995, my son and I, to show them what we had done on the Honda, because Dad was up from Florida visiting Gary. So I'll just leave it to you. I mean, I haven't ever heard your thoughts from when we pulled into the driveway that day.
Yeah, when we looked at the results, and then we drove the motorcycle and saw how responsive it was and all that, my dad really kind of choked up when he saw it and heard about the work. Greg went over what he had done in detail, and my dad couldn't talk. I mean, he just was choked up enough that he just couldn't really say how appreciative it was. And I could tell by his face that he was extremely, extremely proud of what they had done with this motorcycle.
So that's part of the memory of why I decided to just try to keep this. Now, in answer to that, I have a Harley. I've ridden that since 1985 when I bought it new. I mean, when I buy a bike, I keep them. But I'm about ready to retire to California, and when I leave, I'm going to sell the Harley, and this is going to become my old man's retirement bike. I'm taking this to California, and this is going to be about all I can handle, but it's also going to be a very beautiful way to end out my biking career on the family bike. So, yeah. Yeah, the Jerry's Red, no, not the Jerry's Red. All right, well, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to view this video on Dad's bike. It's been very important to our family. Our family has worked collectively to ensure that it remains important. The Common Motor videos are very, very helpful in tracing down problems or applying techniques. I've learned a number of things also by looking at those videos. So it's good to know that there's a support group out there for these older bikes, because this motorcycle has 27,000 miles on it. I remember back in the 70s reading an article in Cycle World that this was one of the first engines to have a documented 100,000 mile run on it with routine maintenance, and it was still going strong. So these engines are very reliable, very durable, and are worth the effort of maintaining them. So I'd like to thank you again just for participating in a bit of the story of our family and Dad's motorcycle in particular. Thank you. Don't forget to like and follow on Instagram and Facebook, the Common Motor. Don't forget to and also subscribe. Do you want to handle this? Don't forget to like and follow on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to the newsletter and the YouTube channel. That's it.
Three takes.
Three takes.